He carried everything, except the right to be remembered. Have you ever smiled while crumbling inside? This question may seem simple, but behind it there is a bitter, silent, and cruel reality. Invisible pain doesn't bleed, doesn't scream, doesn't attract attention. It just lives, inside whoever carries it, silent, forgotten, ignored, as if it didn't matter, as if it didn't exist, as if it were normal for someone to give their all and end up empty-handed. This story is about that, about the weight of the sacrifice, about the cruel ingratitude that hurts more than physical pain itself, and about abandonment, that slow poison that eats away from the inside. He wasn't a person, but he felt like one. He didn't speak, but his lack of words screamed in his gestures. An ox. That's right, a simple ox. But for those who know how to look beyond the obvious, he was more than that. He was strength. He was loyalty. He was presence. For years he pulled weight, endured scorching sun, cold rain, hunger. Never complained. It never stopped. Not by choice, but because it was what was expected of him. That ox was like a silent employee, a servant without rights, a warrior without medals. And behind that tired look hid an exhausted soul, but still loyal. While the boss was harvesting the fruits, he was burying his strength. As the farm grew, he bowed more and more. It was faithful. It was useful. It was essential. But in the real world, where someone's worth is measured by what they can still offer, he became invisible at the very moment he became weak. What happens to someone who lived just to serve when they no longer serve? Nobody wonders. Nobody looks. Nobody cares. Time passed and he no longer had the same vigor. The steps became slow, the back marked, the eyes opaque, but the heart still there, waiting for recognition, hoping, who knows, a worthy end, a minimum of gratitude. But gratitude is a luxury that few know how to give, and he who gave everything was left behind as if he had never done anything. The scene is heartbreaking. Alone, in some corner, eating what little was left, looking at the horizon as if waiting for someone who won't come back. The boss? There were already other oxen, stronger, younger, and that old fellow? Forgotten, ignored, abandoned. This story is not just about an animal. It's about everything we forget when the value of things exceeds the value of feelings. It's about parents who gave their lives for their children and today live in a nursing home. About mothers who spent sleepless nights and today receive cold calls. It's about people who gave love and only received silence. And also about an ox that once carried the world on its back, but didn't even get a look back when it needed it most. This pain is the invisible pain, the one that no one sees but that kills inside. And the saddest thing is that he was still waiting. He was waiting for the boss to come and pick him up. I expected a gesture, a memory, one last affection, but abandonment has silence as its answer. And that's when the story starts to change. And that's where the story starts to change. Not because the boss came back. He didn't come back. Not because there was justice. She didn't come. But because you're listening to this now. Because perhaps for the first time someone will see this type of pain with different eyes. You will remember that loyalty has a price. What sacrifice has a name? That abandonment is not just absence. It is an open wound. How many people, how many oxen like this live among us? People who carried families, supported homes, took care of everything. And when they needed it most, they were left alone. Maybe you know someone like that. Maybe you are that person. That's why this video exists. Because stories like this can no longer be ignored. Because pain changes when someone cares. And because together, we can create a current of consciousness, respect, and change. So now it's up to you. Leave a comment saying, "This needs to change." Let's turn this story into a collective voice against ingratitude and abandonment. Show that you listened, that you felt, that you care. Write in the comments your vision, your pain, or the story you know. It could be yours, it could be someone else's. Every word counts. Leave your like if this story touched you. This shows YouTube that this content matters and can reach more people who need to hear it now. Subscribe to the channel. Here, each video is more than a sad story. It is an invitation to reflection, empathy, and change. Because telling stories is easy. Feeling is for those who have a heart. And if you're still here, with a heavy heart like mine, Get ready. The strongest part of this story is yet to come, because what happened next, no one expected. And if you think silence is empty, it's because you never really paid attention to it. Silence has weight. He squeezes, he invades, he screams, but no one hears. In the story of that ox, and in so many other stories Arecidas, the cruelest thing was not the end. It was the time before the end. That period when he was still there, still present, but no longer seen. He continued walking, even if slower. I kept pulling, even with pain. I continued trying to please, even though I had already lost my value in the eyes of those who once said, "I need you." The world is in too much of a hurry to see what is not visible. And because of that, the signs go unnoticed. Have you ever noticed how slow abandonment starts? How does contempt not come screaming, but infiltrate in small gestures? It starts when the eyes stop looking, when the steps stop waiting, when gestures of care become cold and automatic obligations. Those who previously received words of affection now hear only commands, and the commands, over time, became silence. The ox, that old companion from so many journeys, no longer received even a glance. The boss walked past him as if he were part of the landscape. I fed out of obligation, without care, without affection. The straw thrown on the ground was not food, it was contempt. The water, previously clean and abundant, now came dirty, half full. The time of use was over. The time for neglect had begun, and he felt it. Even without understanding words, he understood gestures, and the language of abandonment is universal. Signs. There are always signs. Don't look downcast. In the body that no longer reacts as it used to. In isolation, even when surrounded by others. Because being among many is not the same as being noticed. Do you know someone like this? Maybe someone in your family. That grandfather who once supported the house and today lives forgotten in a room. That mother who was always there, who gave up everything, and now only receives quick messages saying, "I don't have time, I'll call you later." Maybe a friend who used to always smile and today only responds with an "okay" that doesn't convince anyone. But we prefer to believe that everything is okay, because it's easier not to see. It's easier to think it was just another rant. That joke saying, "I think I'm going to disappear," is just a joke. That sudden silence is just tiredness. The truth? It's just that silence is often a cry for help, but no one listens. And do you know why? Because pain that doesn't bleed doesn't feel like urgency. Because suffering that doesn't make noise seems like freshness. And then, we ignore it. Ignore that empty look, that "I'm tired" repeated too often, that way of slowly moving away. Ignore until there's no more time. It was like that with the ox. He started eating less. I lay down for longer. I would stop in the middle of the field and just look, as if expecting something. A gesture, a affection. A reminder that even though he was old, he was still someone. But the boss didn't see it, because there were already others. Faster, younger, more useful. And that's what hurts. Utility replaces affection, and ingratitude steals the dignity of those who gave everything. But have you ever thought how cruel it is to be left aside when all you did was give yourself body and soul? Have you ever thought about what goes on in the head of someone who feels like they are becoming invisible? How many parents experience this? How many seniors experience this emotional blanking? How many people today are silent, waiting for someone to notice that they are sinking? And do you know what they do? They keep trying to smile. They keep making jokes about themselves as if that would make things easier. Jokes like, "If I disappear, no one will even notice." Or, "I don't think my presence here makes a difference anymore." Phrases thrown into the air as if they were a joke, but they are desperate requests for attention. But the world just doesn't listen. Therefore, those who suffer, suffer in silence. And silence is a dangerous place. That's where the pain grows. This is where abandonment takes shape. It is there that the wounds that no one sees are born. But that kill inside. The ox, he didn't complain. I didn't know how. But his every movement was a signal. Every time he stopped in the field, aimlessly, it was a muffled scream. Every time I tried to keep up with the others but fell behind, it was a cry for help. But there was no one to listen. And maybe that's what hurts the most. The fact that I still have hope. To still believe that, at some point, they will look at you and remember what you were, of what you did, of what you gave. But the world quickly forgets. And human beings, when they no longer feel the need, tend to close their eyes to gratitude. That ox didn't want a prize. I didn't want applause. I just wanted respect, a worthy end, a gesture of affection, a thank you. But he received distance, indifference, and finally, total oblivion. And this isn't just an animal's story. It is the story of a cycle that repeats itself, a pattern that silently destroys lives, where people are replaced by convenience, where ties are undone in a hurry, where feelings are ignored because they are no longer useful. How many times have you seen this happen? That loyal employee fired without even a thank you accession, that person who was always available, but no one looks for when they disappear, that son who grew up, achieved everything, and now he doesn't even have time to say hi to his parents. We live in a world that values the new, the fast, the useful, and forget that the heart is not disposable, that love has no expiration date, that affection cannot be conditioned on utility. Therefore, this story needs to be told, because it is a mirror of what we are becoming. And maybe when you see it from the outside, you realize what's happening on the inside. Who is silent next to you? Who stopped smiling but you didn't even notice? Who is moving away, and you thought it was just a lack of time? Who is talking through jokes because they are afraid to say what they really feel? This is the time to see the signs, not to wait for silence to turn into tragedy. It should be noted that often the last request for help is disguised as everything is fine. And if you've come this far, it's because you feel it, you care, and this is the beginning of a change. But I want to ask you something. Comment below. I listen to the silence. This phrase may seem simple, but it carries a world. It shows that you understand, that you saw what many ignore, that you feel the weight of invisible pain, and are willing to be part of a different current. If this story touched you, and I know it did, leave a like. This helps spread this message to more people, so that more eyes are opened, so that more hearts awaken. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now, because here, each story is more than a video. It's a warning. It is a request for empathy. It's a hug in the form of words for those who need to be heard. And he also comments, "This needs to change." Let's fill the comments with voices that won't shut up in the face of indifference, with people who no longer accept silence being ignored, who are ready to see the signs and act. Because there is still time. You can still do things differently. And in the next part of this story, you will understand what happens when the pain no longer fits in the body, when the silence finally explodes, and what's left, maybe it's too late to fix it. The day everything changed was no different from the others. It was just another dawn, like so many others he saw without ever being noticed. The sky was no longer beautiful. The field was no longer flowery. The food was no longer plentiful. But that day, something inside him just gave way. It wasn't an explosion, it wasn't a noise, it wasn't a scandal. It was just an instant, a moment when the soul gives up before the body. And anyone who has experienced this knows what I'm talking about. He stood up slower than usual. Each step was a struggle between what was left of strength and what was already overflowing with exhaustion. The world continued to spin. People continued to be busy. The other cattle grazed distractedly. But he carried the whole world on his shoulders, and no one saw. We tend to think that pain only exists when it appears, when we cry, when we scream. But the most dangerous pain is the one that accumulates in silence, which settles slowly, that grows with neglect, with coldness, with the look that no longer looks, with the affection that no longer comes, with the word that never arrives. And that day, his body said what his heart had been trying to show for a long time. It stopped. Just like that, in the middle of the field, facing a barely warming sun with my eyes lost in any spot. He just stopped. It didn't go. He didn't respond. He didn't react. Silence. The silence that was once a cry for help was now the loudest scream he could give. There were no tears. There were no gestures. Just the weight of absence. The emptiness of a presence that was still there physically, but that inside no longer existed. And it was only then that they noticed. But it was already too late. The boss, the same one who previously passed by him as if he were invisible, was surprised. He approached. He called. He shouted. He clapped his hands, tried to move. He tried to force it. But nothing happened. The answer didn't come. Because when silence becomes a scream, he no longer wants to be interrupted. He wants to be felt. Low sounds filled the room, the dragging of chains on the dirt floor, the wind blowing dryly in the trees, the other oxen moving away as if they realized the end before the humans. And he was there, standing still, breathing slowly, with his gaze fixed on nowhere. The camera of life, if it were possible to film this scene, would be in slow motion. A close-up of the eyes, sunken eyes, empty. There was no fear, no pain. There was only tiredness, a tiredness that wasn't physical. It was emotional, existential, a tiredness of waiting, carrying, resisting, and never being remembered. And it is at this moment that most people realize the value of what they lost. But most people only realize it when there is no more time. The lack of listening takes a toll. Neglect has a price. And abandonment, that doesn't forgive. The ox stayed there for days, without moving properly, without eating, without reacting. The vet came. They said it was old age. They said it was weakness. But it wasn't. It was something else. It was the accumulation of silence. It was emotional pain that finally turned into physical absence. It was the collapse of a soul that endured everything in the name of loyalty and was betrayed by contempt. So what did the boss do? He put him in a corner, any enclosure, away from others. No pasture, no shade, just waiting, as if it were a broken piece awaiting disposal. And the question that echoes at this moment is, how does someone who once was everything become nothing? But this story, as sad as it may seem, is not isolated. Think with me. How many people are in that same place today? In silence, exhausted, invisible, waiting for someone to notice they're not okay? That friend who disappeared from the networks, that relative who no longer shows up at meetings, that neighbor who stopped saying hello, the coworker who lives in silence. They could all be there, on the verge of stopping, on the verge of breaking inside. And the worst part, maybe no one is watching, because the world runs too fast to notice the pauses, the small dropouts, the subtleties of those who are already on the edge. The breaking point never happens out of nowhere. It is being built, day after day, look after look that doesn't see, word after word that goes unspoken, gesture after gesture that is expected, but never arrives. And when it finally arrives, there's no going back. In the case of the ox, he was never the same again. He lost the sparkle in his eyes. He stopped eating, and little by little, he gave in. Not because I wanted to die, but because life no longer made sense without affection, no dignity, no love. And that applies to all of us, because it doesn't matter if you are an animal, a worker, a father, a mother, a son, or a daughter. We all have a limit. We all need to be seen, heard, valued, and the worst pain there is being ignored by those you help the most. Therefore, every time you notice someone changing their behavior, moving away, becoming silent, don't treat it as a phase. Don't treat it as drama. It could be the beginning of the end. It could be the moment when the silence starts to turn into a scream. And I scream. It can't be ignored. If you've experienced this, you know what it's like. That feeling of being in a room full of people, but still feeling alone. That urge to disappear just to see if someone would miss you. That pain of looking into the eyes of the one you love and seeing that they no longer see you. It is at this moment that the heart begins to give up. And when the heart gives up, the body follows. It's cruel. It's devastating. It's silent. But it's real. And I'm not telling you this to make you sad. I'm telling you because maybe this is the only way to wake up hearts that are asleep. Maybe you're being the boss in this story and you didn't even realize it. Maybe someone is looking at you like the ox looked, in silence, with hope, in pain, and you can still change that. You can still hear the scream before it becomes an absence. You can still repair what neglect hurt. But to do that, you need to stop, to look, to feel, to hear. Because as long as there is silence, there is still hope. But when silence turns into a scream, it's a sign that something inside has already died. And if you've made it this far, I know it touched you. And I want to ask you something. Right here in the comments. I will listen before the silence turns into a scream. Repeat this to yourself. Write so that more people can see it. Share this phrase with someone who needs to remember to pay attention before it's too late. Leave a like if this story made you reflect. This helps to take this message further. More people need to hear this. More people need to wake up before they lose what really matters. If you are not yet registered, sign up now. Here, each story is a mirror of our humanity. Here we transform pain into awareness, changing suffering. And he also comments, this pain has a name. If you've ever seen this happen, if you lived this, if you know someone who lives, leave that sentence alone. Let's show the algorithm that this pain will no longer be invisible. Because the next part of this story will show what happens when life demands everything that was ignored. And the charge sometimes comes too late. A single word could have changed everything. All it took was for someone to say, I'm here. All it took was one look that said, I see you. All it took was a presence that meant, you matter. But no one said. Nobody saw it. Nobody stayed. And now, when everything seems to have slipped through your fingers like dry sand, the question that echoes is always the same. What if? What if someone had noticed sooner? What if someone had reached out at the right time? What if someone had stopped, even just for a moment, to listen to that silence that hurt more than any scream? But the what if never changes what has already happened. It just weighs, just decay, it just haunts. If that ox had had someone to listen, perhaps it wouldn't have faded into silence. Maybe his last days would be different. Perhaps he would have left with dignity, with the certainty that he was not forgotten, that his value was recognized, because deep down, that's all he wanted. Be seen, be remembered, be careful. And that goes for all of us. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be recognized. Everyone wants, at the very least, a gesture that says, you matter. But we live in a world where time runs faster than feelings can keep up, where everything needs to be productive, visible, useful, and where, when you can no longer deliver what the other expects, you become a burden, you become the past, you become a landscape. Therefore, listening becomes an act of love, presence, a gesture of humanity. Empathy is not saying, I understand. It's stopping what you're doing, looking someone in the eye and showing that you're really there, that you don't need to have all the answers, that you don't need to know what to say. All you need to do is listen with your heart. Maybe what that soul needed was just someone to say, you've done enough. Now it's my turn to take care of you. Maybe he was still among the others. Maybe it would still go a while longer. Maybe he wouldn't have given up. But there was no one. And that's where the tragedy lies. It's not the end that destroys. It's loneliness on the way to it. And if you think this is just an animal story, then you still don't get it. This happens every day to real people. People who gave their lives for someone, who were there when they were needed most, who gave up their dreams for the sake of others. And now, they are being forgotten. There are mothers who lived their entire lives for their children, and today they spend their days alone, waiting for a call that never comes. There are parents who worked hard, missed birthdays, missed nights of sleep just to ensure food on the table, and today they are seen as a nuisance. There are friends who were by someone's side in the worst moments, and now they don't even receive a, how are you? And you know what hurts most? It's just that these people don't ask for much. They don't want expensive gifts. They don't want parties, applause. They just want to be remembered. They want a hug, a look, a little time. They just want someone to stop and listen. Listening is a silent antidote to abandonment. And if you think you don't have time to listen, maybe someone is dying in silence because of you. It doesn't need much. Sometimes a visit changes everything. I remembered you today warms a heart that was already freezing. I'm here, okay? Saves a life that was already thinking about giving up. How many times have you passed someone and noticed something different, but let it go? How many times has someone said, I'm tired, in a way that seemed deeper, but you only responded, me too? How many times have you noticed someone quieter, more absent, but thought, it's not me? The truth is harsh, but it needs to be said. The world is full of screams disguised as silence, and most people don't want to bother. They just disappear, little by little disappearing. They die slowly inside and no one notices. And that's why this story needs to be heard until the end, because maybe it's the last attempt to show someone that there's still time. You can still hear it before the silence becomes goodbye. You can still prevent the final scream from happening. You can still be the voice that changes the ending of a story. And it doesn't matter if you are someone who feels this pain or someone who lives with those who are silent. In both cases, you can be the difference. If you feel this pain, speak up. Even if you think no one will listen, even if you think it's not worth it. Speak, he writes. Cry. Shout if you have to. But don't keep everything to yourself. Swallowed pain turns into poison. Suffocated hurt becomes an illness. Prolonged silence turns into emotional death. And if you see someone silent, listen. Don't wait for the person to ask for help with words. Help is not asked with the mouth, it is asked with the eyes. It can be seen in the body, in the way of walking, in sudden disappearance, in the small gestures that scream, "Notice me." You can save someone just by being there, just by asking, "Is everything really okay?" And wait for the answer with an open heart. You can change the ending of a story just by saying, "You matter to me." This is how you build a more humane world. A world where oxen are not abandoned after everything they have done. A world where parents are not discarded, where mothers are not ignored, where friends are not forgotten. A world where someone's value does not depend on what they can still offer, but on what they have already offered. A world where gratitude is not only remembered in mourning but practiced in life. And maybe if that ox had listened to a single word of caution, he would still be there. Maybe if the boss had stopped for a single day to see beyond his tired body, he would be given a worthy end, not a cold corner of oblivion. But now, the question that remains is, how many people close to you are in that same corner? Who in your life needs to be heard before it's too late? This is the time. This is the chance. This is the opportunity to do something different. Don't wait for tragedy. Don't wait for the end. Don't wait for the silence to turn into a scream to discover that you could have done something. If you've made it this far, you feel this pain. And if you feel it, then you are the right person to break this cycle, to give voice to what is silent, to give light to what is hidden, to give value to what is forgotten. And I want to ask you something. Now that you've lived this story with me, now that you've felt every word, I want you to turn that feeling into action. Comment here, "I am the voice of those who suffer in silence." Or if you prefer, "I will listen before the silence turns into a scream." These words may seem small, but they have power. They show that you understand, that you care, that you won't let this pain go unnoticed. Leave a like if this story touched your heart. This makes YouTube deliver this video to more people. People who maybe are about to break. People who are perhaps in the last stage of silence. People who can still be saved. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed. Here, each story is more than a plot. It's a calling. It's a mirror. It's help disguised as a narrative. And when you sign up, you join a community that listens, that feels, that transforms. And please share. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. For someone who may be on the other side of the screen, smiling on the outside and crumbling on the inside. This person could be your friend. It could be your mother. It could be your own father. It can be yourself.